The tapes they left behind, episode 1. The first tape. Why did they bury this? I wasn't even supposed to be there that night. I was only tagging along because Chris, my camera guy, begged me to check out some abandoned farmhouse people on Reddit swore was haunted. I've seen haunted houses before. Creaking floors, drafty hallways, maybe a raccoon in the attic if we're lucky. But this house was wrong before we even stepped inside. The front door was nailed shut. Not boarded, nailed. Each nail was marked with red wax, like someone had sealed the house like a coffin. The air smelled like wet earth and metal, and the grass, it wasn't overgrown. It was flat, like someone had dragged something heavy across the lawn again and again. Chris loved it. I should have left right then. The basement door was padlocked from the outside. Chris cut it open. The second we stepped down, the air dropped 20 degrees. The basement smelled worse than the yard. Rot and rainwater. The walls were covered in scratches, not random, deliberate. Rows of tally marks gouged into the concrete, like someone was counting days. And then we saw the box. It was just sitting there, half buried in the dirt floor, wood so old it was black with rot. But someone had wrapped it in silk. A coffin for something that shouldn't have been found. Chris filmed me digging it out. The silk was soaked through, not with water. It was sticky. I didn't want to touch it anymore. Chris pushed me to open it. Inside were 12 VHS tapes, each one labeled with a date spanning exactly 12 days. The handwriting was shaky, like whoever wrote it was losing control of their hands. I held up the first tape. It was dated August 3rd, 1989. Chris laughed. Dude, this is gold. Imagine if this is some real-ass found footage shit. I wanted to leave it, but the tape was warm in my hand, like it wanted me to keep it. We took the tapes home. 11:45 p.m., first viewing, we set up the old VCR Chris bought at a flea market. I didn't want to watch alone, so we went live streaming to all 17,000 subscribers on my paranormal channel. The chat exploded the second they saw the tapes. No way that's real. This is staged AF. Play it already. Chris hit play. The tape begins static, then darkness. The camera shook, handheld. Whoever filmed it was running, breathing heavy, like they were being chased. They burst into the same basement where we found the box, but it looked different. The walls were wet, like they were breathing, and there were fingers pressing out from inside the concrete, like the house was full of people trying to get out. The cameraman screamed. Not a word, just raw animal fear. And then, through the grainy footage, we saw something move in the corner, a figure, back turned, facing the wall. Its arms were too long, fingers scraping the floor, head twitching like a broken puppet. The cameraman begged, please, please, I didn't mean to, I didn't know. The figure turned. And it had my face. Chris killed the feed. The chat went insane. Messages flooded in. What the hell was that? Bro, that looked like you. Was that a deep fake? Play the next one. Couldn't breathe. 2:15 a.m. The house calls, we tried to sleep. I left the tape on my desk. At exactly 2:15, my phone rang. No caller ID. I answered. A voice whispered, "Why did you dig us up?" I hung up. The screen was still playing the basement footage, even though the VCR was unplugged. 3:13 a.m. The first mark, I went to the bathroom to splash my face. When I looked up, there was a mark on my neck. A handprint made of dirt, fingers too long, pressed into my skin from the inside. I heard my own voice whisper back at me, "Play the next tape." The curse begins. I didn't know it yet, but the moment we pressed play, the curse attached itself. Each tape was a countdown. Each viewing pulled us deeper into the story. And once you start, you have to finish all 12 or the house finishes you. Chris wants to keep filming. I want to burn the tapes, but the first tape's label changed overnight. It doesn't say August 3rd, 1989 anymore. Now it says, Olivia Holloway, Day 1. That's my name, and I never told the house who I was. Pass the story on, or the tapes will find you too if you watch this far. The house knows your name now. And tonight, at exactly 3:13 a.m., check your neck. If you see a handprint, don't play the next tape. Burn it, or become part of the story. Episode 2. A voice inside the walls. I didn't sleep after the first tape. Chris passed out on the couch, headphones in, drowning out the silence with some podcast about cryptids. I sat at my desk, staring at the box of tapes. There were 11 left. 11 chances to stop. 11 chances to save ourselves. But the house already knew we wouldn't. 3:13 a.m. The first knock, 3 soft knocks on the window. Chris didn't hear it. I did. The knocks weren't coming from outside. They were coming from inside the wall. The tape that plays itself, the second tape, ejected itself from the box. The label had changed. It didn't say August 4th, 1989 anymore. It said, Olivia Holloway, Day 2. The VCR turned on. The tape slid in by itself. Chris was still asleep. The screen flickered to life. The second tape begins. The footage was darker this time, like it was filmed inside the walls, not the rooms. I saw layers of old wallpaper, torn open like skin peeling back, revealing names carved into the wood underneath. Each name had a date, and next to the date, a time of death. My name was already there, next to tomorrow's date. Time of death, 3:13 a.m. A voice that shouldn't exist as the camera moved deeper into the walls. A voice echoed from the speakers. Not just any voice. My voice. If you're watching this, it's too late. But that was impossible. That tape was filmed in 1989. I wasn't born until 1998. The walls are listening, I whispered. Chris, wake up. And my whisper repeated inside the tape, like it had always been there. Chris, wake up. The camera panned to the left, and there I was, standing inside the wall, face pale, lips cracked, watching myself from the other side. The future inside the past, I screamed. Chris bolted upright, but the TV screen was already off. The tape sat back in its box, as if we never played it. Except, there was dirt under my fingernails, the kind you get from digging inside walls. Voices from the vents. Chris blamed sleep paralysis. I blamed the house. Then we heard it, a whisper leaking from the air vent above us. Olivia, you need to confess. Chris's face went pale. That's your voice. I climbed onto the dresser, pulled the vent cover off. Inside was a cassette recorder still running, taped to the inside of the vent. The tape inside was labeled Confession Number 7, Olivia Holloway, but I hadn't confessed anything. What did I do? I pressed play. My own voice crackled through the tiny speaker. I'm sorry I killed him. I didn't mean to push him. I just wanted him to stop screaming. Chris stared at me. What the fuck did you do? But I never killed anyone. I swear to God, I never did. The house writes its own history at exactly 3:13 a.m. The second tape ejected itself again. But this time, there was fresh blood smeared across the label, and underneath my name, someone had added another word, murderer. The basement knows. We ran back to the basement. The floor was wet, but not with water, with ink, pouring from a crack in the wall, forming letters that spelled, play the next tape. Chris begged me to stop. Couldn't, because the house didn't ask. The house commanded. The wall opens its mouth. One of the concrete walls split open, a gap just wide enough for a hand to reach through. My hand. Inside the gap was a photograph, old, cracked, soaked in something dark. It showed me and Chris, filmed from inside the wall while we were asleep last night. But our faces were missing, scratched off by something with long nails. The curse needs confessions on the back of the photo, one line written in the same blood ink. Every keeper must confess before they die. Chris whispered, what the hell are you supposed to confess? I didn't know, but my bones did. Pass the story on, or your house starts to listen to. If you've watched this far, your walls already know your name. And tonight, at exactly 3:13 a.m., press your ear to the wall. If you hear a whisper, it's already too late, because the house writes you into the next tape. Episode 3. This house eats children. I woke up with soil in my mouth. Not dirt. Soil. The kind you find under a freshly dug grave. Chris was still snoring on the couch, but his nose was bleeding. Black, not red. The second tape sat back inside the box, even though I remembered smashing it to pieces after last night. And now, the third tape was already halfway pushed into the VCR, like something had started without me. The label didn't say August 5th, 1989. It said, "This house eats children." No turning back, I didn't press play. I didn't have to. The TV turned on by itself, the tape started rolling, and the first thing I saw was a child's face pressed against the screen. Eyes wide, mouth sewn shut, skin crawling with ants. The child whispered, but not with his mouth. With mine. "Welcome back, Olivia." The house knows my name. Chris woke up screaming. The nosebleed had soaked his shirt. "We have to go," he begged. But the front door was gone. Just a solid wall, like the house sealed itself shut. On the screen, the child pointed at something behind me. I turned. The wall by the staircase was opening like a mouth. Inside the gap, a crib. Old, rotting, still rocking. The crib knows my weight. I stepped closer. My feet sank into the floor, like the house was remembering me. My name was scratched into the wood of the crib, next to 7 other names, each one crossed out with a nail. The last name before mine was Theo Holloway. The third tape keeps changing. The footage flickered, static between scenes, but each time it cut back, the child was older. 4 years old, then 6, then 8. I knew his face, because it was my brother's face. This house eats children. The wall swallows Chris. The wall spat out a rope noosed around Chris's ankle. It yanked him backwards into the same mouth where the crib came from. The wall closed over him before I could move. But the TV kept playing, and now Chris was in the footage too, screaming my name. The tape plays our future. The camera inside the tape turned to show me standing alone, holding the remote, while blood poured from my ears. Chris screamed, "Olivia, stop watching. It only works if you keep watching." I couldn't look away. This house eats children, and I was next. The tape cut to a different room, the kitchen. The table was set for 2. One plate was filled with dirt. The other was filled with teeth. All baby teeth, each one marked with a date. Mine was there. 1988, the year I was born. The house keeps its promises. I tried to unplug the TV. The socket was gone. The screen flickered again. Now it showed my mother, pregnant with me, sitting at the same table, eating from the plate of teeth. This house eats children before they're born. The tape showed my ultrasound. The doctor's voice said, "Strong heartbeat." But the sound coming from the monitor was not a heartbeat. It was chewing. Something was already eating me before I even took my first breath. The house writes my birth certificate on the kitchen wall. Words began to scratch themselves into the paint. Letter by letter, Olivia Holloway, born and buried same day. I checked my phone. The date was wrong. It didn't say 2025. It said August 5th, 1989, the date of the third tape. I was inside the tape. The screen showed me, not watching from my living room, but inside the house, standing at the crib with dirt pouring from my mouth. I screamed. The screen screamed back. My reflection inside the TV grinned, teeth made of soil and fingernails. Welcome home. The third tape ends, but I don't wake up. Chris was gone. The TV was off. The VCR was empty, but the dirt was still in my mouth. And my phone still said 1989. The house eats what it creates. I checked the basement. The crib was gone. The walls were clean, no tally marks, no handprints. Just a single word scratched into the floor. Next. Pass the story on, or your house starts to eat you too. If you've read this far, the house knows your name. And tonight, at exactly 3:13 a.m., check the space under your bed. If the floor feels soft, you're already being eaten. Episode 4. Bury yourself before they do. I woke up covered in dirt. My fingernails were packed with soil. My throat scratched raw, like I'd been screaming into the earth all night. Chris was still missing, but the fourth tape was already waiting. Not inside the box this time, but under my pillow, like someone put it there while I slept. The label said, Olivia Holloway, your burial tape. The tape that buries you. I didn't want to press play, but my hands didn't care what I wanted. The VCR turned on by itself, the tape slid in, and the screen flickered to life. There was no grainy footage this time, no shaky handheld, just a hole in the ground, freshly dug, big enough for one body, my size. The camera knew my face. I saw my own hands appear in the frame, dirty, trembling, holding the camera. I was filming my own burial, and inside the hole, wrapped in the same silk we found in the basement, was me. Eyes open, mouth stitched shut, skin crawling with something moving underneath. Future me spoke first. The corpse opened its mouth. Stitches ripped open. And my voice. Not a recording, not an echo, but my voice right now, speaking the exact words I was thinking at that moment. This isn't real. This isn't happening. On screen, my dead self smiled, like it knew the script by heart. The house writes your death before you die. I tried to turn off the TV. My hand wouldn't obey. The footage kept playing. The camera zoomed in on my own tombstone, already standing at the head of the grave. It said, Olivia Holloway died at her own hand, buried before sunrise. I checked my phone. The time was 3:13 a.m. The date was tomorrow. The earth opens beneath me. The floor under my feet cracked open, soil pouring out like blood from a wound. My own hands, against my will, reached into the earth, pulling out a shovel already covered in my fingerprints. The house didn't just show my death. It was making me rehearse it. Voices in the dirt as I dug. The soil whispered, every keeper buries herself. Every keeper finishes her own story. If you run, the house will dig for you. My own bones surface first. The shovel hit something hard. A femur, my size. My birthmark still faint on the bone. The ground was spitting me back out before I was even buried. The fourth tape shows the final shovel on screen. My future self stood at the edge of the grave, hands shaking, camera still rolling. She looked straight into the lens, straight into me, and whispered, "Don't stop digging." Then she jumped into the grave, into herself. My own corpse pulls me down. The floor gave way. I fell into the hole, and inside the dirt, waiting for me, was me. Fingers wrapping around my wrist, mouth full of soil and teeth, whispering, "Bury me before sunrise." Burial is the only way out. The walls of the grave were made of VHS tape, each strip looping the same scene. Me burying me, over and over. Each burial feeding the house, each house feeding the curse. The portraits watch from below. Every ancestor portrait from the house was buried under me. Eyes wide open, mouth stuffed with dirt. Each ancestor repeating my name, like a prayer or a curse. Olivia, 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 Olivia. The ground swallowed my ankles. I couldn't move. The tape plays backwards. The fourth tape rewound itself, playing everything in reverse. I saw myself climbing out of the grave, walking backward into the house, back into the crib, back into my mother's womb. The house doesn't just eat children, it rebirths them, because every keeper is born twice. Once as a baby, once as a corpse, and the second birth is the one that matters. Future me leaves a message. The last frame of the tape showed my future self, holding a knife made of bone, carving into the wall one final message. If you don't bury yourself, they will. The knife was already in my hand, covered in dirt, blade warm. The fourth tape ends, but the grave stays open. I stood over the hole in my floor, shovel in one hand, knife in the other. Chris was still gone. The house was still hungry. And now, I had less than 24 hours to bury myself or become part of the next tape. Pass the story on, or the earth opens under you next. If you've read this far, your floor already knows your weight. Tonight, at exactly 3:13 a.m., stand still. If the ground feels softer than usual, start digging. Or wait for them to dig for you. Episode 5. The Secrets You Never Told. I found the fifth tape under my skin. I woke up scratching my arm, fingernails digging into my flesh, until I felt something hard and square just beneath the surface. It was small, the size of a VHS label. I pulled it out. It wasn't a dream. It was real. Piece of tape, buried inside me, covered in blood, but the ink was still clear. Olivia Holloway, confession tape. The tape that speaks for you, Chris, was still missing. The house was still watching, and the VCR was already on, waiting. My hands moved without asking. The tape slid in. The screen flickered to life, but there was no footage, just a black screen. And my own voice said, "I know what you did. The secrets you forgot." You had the screen cut to a bedroom, not mine, but familiar. A hand held the camera, pointing at a closet door slightly ajar. Something was breathing inside, fast, wet, like lungs filling with mud instead of air. My voice whispered from behind the door, "Please, don't tell anyone." The closet opens itself, the door creaked open. Inside, a body, small, broken, covered in a blanket stained with stars and moons. I knew that blanket. It was mine, from when I was 10 years old. And under the blanket, a boy's face. Eyes wide open, mouth full of dirt and teeth. It was Theo, my brother. The truth I buried, I stumbled back, but the TV followed me. The screen crawled across the floor like a mirror that wouldn't let me look away. I saw my own hands, 10 years old, shoving dirt into Theo's mouth, trying to quiet his crying. I didn't want to hurt him. I just wanted the house to stop whispering through him. But I pushed too hard. He stopped breathing. And I buried him. Memory hole, I forgot. I made myself forget. The house helped me forget. Until now. Until the 5th tape. Confession is the only way out. The screen flickered again. Now it showed me today, sitting in front of the camera, eyes bloodshot, hands shaking, confessing everything. But I hadn't filmed that. Not yet. The tape knows before you do. The house didn't just record my secrets. It created them, fed them back to me until I couldn't tell what was real memory and what was cursed memory. Did I really kill Theo? Or did the house rewrite my past? The walls start talking, the paint peeled off the walls, revealing more tape hidden underneath, each strip playing a different confession. My mother confessing to drowning her twin sister. My grandfather confessing to poisoning his entire church. And my own voice confessing to every sin I never committed but somehow remembered. Your secrets become your curse. The more I denied it, the louder the tapes played. Until the house knew my whole life better than I did. The tape doesn't end until you do. I tried to eject the tape. The VCR bit my fingers, sharp metal slicing my skin, and the blood fed back into the machine, like the tape was drinking me. The screen flickered again. Now it showed a funeral, my own casket. And everyone attending was me, each version holding a different confession, each Olivia whispering a different crime. The house doesn't want innocence, it needs you guilty. It needs you to believe you're guilty. Because only guilt can feed the curse. I was the last secret. The final frame of the tape showed me standing in the basement, holding a knife made of bone and hair, carving into my own chest the words, "Forgive me, Theo." My hands shook. I looked down. The knife was already in my hand. The words were already on my skin. The confession was complete. Pass this story on, or the tape will write your secrets too. If you've read this far, the house knows what you've done. Even if you don't. Tonight, at exactly 3:13 a.m., stand in front of your mirror. Ask out loud, "What did I forget?" If your reflection answers, run. Because the 6th tape has already started recording. Episode 6, they're watching you now. I didn't press play. I swear to God, I didn't. The 6th tape started itself, the screen flickered, and instead of grainy footage from the house, it showed something impossible. It showed me sitting on my bed right now in real time, staring at the screen, watching myself. The tape knows you're watching. I waved my hand. The Olivia on the screen waved back. Chris was still missing. My skin still burned with the words I carved in my sleep, "Forgive me, Theo." But now the tape wasn't just showing my past. It wasn't showing my future. It was showing you, whoever is watching this right now. The house can see through your screen. The footage zoomed out. Now it showed my screen, and on my screen, your face. Whoever was watching my stream, their webcam turned on without permission, feeding their face into my cursed tape. They weren't just watching me. They were part of me now. Every viewer becomes a keeper. The tape wasn't just recording me anymore. It was recording every single person watching. Names flickered at the bottom of the screen, one after the other, in blood red text. Tina S. Watching from California, Ahmed K. Watching from London, Carlos R. Watching from Mexico City, U. Watching right now. If you watch, you inherit. The screen glitched, and suddenly I could hear your breathing through my speakers. I could hear your heartbeat, faster every second. Because the moment you saw my face, the curse saw you too. The tape reads your secrets. The footage shifted again. Now it showed your room right now, no matter where you are. The tape somehow hacked your camera, even if it's off. Even if you cover the lens, the tape sees through your hands. And then it started whispering your secrets, even the ones you never said out loud. The house knows you better than you do. I heard your name. I heard your fears. I heard the thing you did when you were 10, the thing you promised you'd never think about again. The house whispered, "Tell Olivia." Confess or be confessed on screen, my face changed. My mouth stretched wide, teeth made of VHS tape, and my voice said, "Confess to me or I'll confess for you." Every viewer had 30 seconds. Some typed their sins into the chat, begging forgiveness from strangers. Some unplugged their computers, but the tape kept playing in their heads. The tape writes your death scene next. The tape showed how you die. Custom made for each viewer. It knew your fears, it knew your childhood nightmares, and it tailored your death like a bespoke curse. For one viewer, it showed a hand pulling them into the screen itself. For another, it showed their reflection strangling them in the bathroom mirror. For you, it's deciding right now. I saw you die before you did. I begged the tape to stop. I begged the house to take me instead. But the house only eats what it's fed. And tonight, it's feeding on you. Every viewer becomes a frame. The wall in my room peeled open, revealing a row of small frames, each holding a face frozen in terror, captured at the exact moment they realized the curse was real. Your face is next. The sixth tape ends when you close your eyes. The footage showed me sleeping. And next to my bed, a blank frame, waiting for the next face. I know whose face it wants. Yours. Pass the story on, or they start watching you too. If you've read this far, the curse knows your name. Your webcam already flickered once, didn't it? Tonight, at exactly 3:13 a.m., look into your screen. If you see your own face smiling back, run, because that means you're already in the seventh tape. Episode 7. Congratulations, you're the next keeper. If you're watching this, congratulations. The house chose you, not because you're strong, not because you're special, but because you're just weak enough to break. I didn't press play. You did. The seventh tape knew your name before you even clicked. It whispered it through the wires, slithered through your Wi-Fi, curled inside your screen, and now it's watching you watch me. That's how it works. Every keeper inherits the curse from someone foolish enough to look too closely. And now that's you. This tape doesn't play. It watches. The screen isn't showing me anymore. It's showing you, not a reflection, not a recording. You, right now, right where you're sitting. See that twitch in your left eye? That nervous tapping of your thumb? The house saw all of it before you did. Because the house has been watching you since the first frame. The house likes your fear. It likes the way you breathe too fast. It likes the way your shoulders tense when you think you heard something behind you. It likes the way you hesitated before clicking this video, but clicked anyway. Fear is the only audition that matters, and you just passed. Every keeper starts as a viewer. I used to think keepers were chosen at birth. A cursed bloodline, a family secret, but that's not true. The curse isn't passed through blood, it's passed through attention. You watched too long, you cared too much, and now the house cares about you. The tape writes your contract. See that shadow moving on your wall right now? That's not your shadow. That's the curse writing your name into the walls of the house. Even if you've never been here, even if you live on the other side of the world, your name is in the walls now. You are officially the next keeper. What does a keeper do? A keeper confesses for the dead. A keeper feeds the house with memory and blood. A keeper stays awake until they forget who they are. A keeper dies when the house decides it's full. That's your job now. The house will start with small tests tonight. Your phone will ring at 3:13 a.m. No caller ID. If you answer, you'll hear your own voice confessing something you forgot you did. If you hang up, you'll hear knocking inside your walls for exactly 7 minutes. Either way, the house will know you're awake. The first task before sunrise, you have to find something you thought you lost forever. A childhood toy, a letter you never sent, a photo you buried under your bed. The house will put it back where you can find it. But it will be different, dirtier, heavier, like someone else's hands have held it for years. When you find it, hold it tight and whisper your name into it 3 times. That's how you introduce yourself to the curse. The first blood offering before the week ends. You'll wake up with soil under your fingernails. Even if you don't remember digging, that's your cue. Go to the nearest mirror. Cut your palm. Not deep, just enough for 1 drop. Smear it across the mirror. Watch what looks back at you. If the reflection smiles before you do, congratulations. The house officially recognizes you. The house will take your reflection first for the next 3 nights. Your reflection will move faster than you. It will smile when you cry. It will bleed when you laugh. It will whisper secrets only you know but slightly wrong. That's not a glitch. That's the house practicing with your soul. The first dream confession, you will dream of a room you've never seen, but somehow remember perfectly. In that room is a chair, and in that chair is someone you betrayed. They will ask you one question: why did you do it? If you lie, the house will write your lie into the walls. If you tell the truth, the house will write your confession across your skin. Either way, the house feeds. The first loss before your first week ends, someone close to you, a pet, a friend, a family member, will forget your name. They won't know why. They won't even know you existed. That's how the house makes space for you. The first visitor on the 7th night, a stranger will knock on your door. They will look like someone you love, but their face will be slightly wrong, mouth too wide, eyes too still. They will ask to come inside. You must say no. But no matter what you say, they will leave something at your doorstep, the 8th tape. The chain continues. This is how it's always worked. The 7th tape chooses the next keeper, and the next keeper watches until they become part of the house. That's you now. No matter where you live, no matter how hard you pray, the house knows where to find you, because you watched. And watching is how the curse sees you first. Pass the story on, or the house finds you first. If you've read this far, your name is already inside the walls. Tonight at exactly 3:13 a.m., check your mirror. If your reflection is smiling before you do, it's too late. You've already inherited the house. Congratulations, keeper. It was already there. I didn't hear a knock, didn't open the door, didn't check my phone. But when I turned around, the 8th tape was sitting on my pillow, wrapped in the same silk from the basement, still damp, still warm, like something alive had been holding it. No label this time. Every other tape had my name on it. This one didn't. This one was blank, but somehow I knew it belonged to you, because the second I touched it, I saw your hands, your face, your room, like the tape was recording your life backwards, starting from the moment you clicked this video. The tape that watches first. Chris used to say haunted objects need permission. You have to open the box. You have to press play. You have to invite it in. But the 8th tape didn't wait for permission. It started playing inside my head before it even touched the VCR. What it showed me, I saw a child. Not me. Not Theo. Someone else. Someone watching right now. I saw their room, the way they slept with one light on, the way they checked their closet twice before bed. I saw their biggest fear, the thing they never told anyone. A face under their bed, mouth too wide, fingers like broken pencils, whispering their name in the exact voice of someone they lost. The tape reads your bones. This wasn't a haunted tape anymore. This was a mirror made of memory, a parasite that feeds on what you fear most and projects it back at you until you believe it's real. Said your name, not mine. Yours. Don't look under the bed tonight. Don't check your phone after midnight. Don't turn around if you hear breathing. It knew what scares you because the 8th tape doesn't record what happens. It records what you believe will happen. This tape writes your future. My hands shook as I pushed it into the VCR. I knew better, but the house knew I couldn't stop. The screen flickered to life, and instead of grainy footage, I saw you. Wherever you are right now, the tape was filming you from inside your screen. You became the story. Every breath you took, every blink, every time you rubbed your hands together nervously. The tape recorded it all. Then it rewound itself and played it back, but with one small change. What you fear most was now behind you, the room you're sitting in right now. It's already in the tape. But there's something extra now, something the house added. Maybe it's a shadow in the corner. Maybe it's a hand reaching from under your desk. Maybe it's your own reflection standing behind you, smiling when you're not. This tape rewrites reality. I screamed for Chris, but the house had already eaten his name. There was no Chris anymore. There was only the next viewer, and the house whispered, "That's you. If you watch, you belong." The 8th tape was never meant for me. It was meant for whoever watches this after me. A curse with no face until you give it one. Congratulations, you gave it yours. Episode 8. The one you didn't ask for. Part 2. The screen flickered again. I saw myself. Not a reflection. Not a recording. I saw future me. She was sitting in the exact spot I was sitting now, wearing the same clothes, holding the same tape in her shaking hands. Except, her hands were covered in something dark. Dirt. Or blood. Or both. The tape shows you what you're about to do. Future me smiled, lips stretched too wide, and whispered, "In exactly 7 minutes, you'll stand up, you'll turn around, and you'll see what's waiting for you." I shook my head. No, but the tape already knew better. Time starts slipping. The time on my phone skipped. 12:10, 12:12, 12:15. I didn't remember blinking. But when I looked back at the screen, future me was standing now. She was facing something behind her, something I couldn't see yet. "You're next," she whispered. "Turn around." The camera moved before I did. The footage panned left, slowly, carefully, revealing what was behind me. A figure, tall, too tall, a shadow with no face, but I knew it was watching me, and it knew I was watching back. The screen is no longer a barrier. I tried to look away, tried to turn off the TV, but when I reached for the remote, the shadow in the screen reached too. It lifted its hand, long fingers matching my exact movement. "You already know what happens next." I did, because the tape had already shown me. I was going to stand up. I was going to turn around. And I was going to see it for real. Reality breaks first in the small details. I squeezed my eyes shut, but when I opened them, the furniture was wrong. The chair was closer. The lamp was missing. The door was on the opposite wall. Little shifts, little glitches, like the house was rewriting itself around me. The tape doesn't just show your future, it writes it. I grabbed my phone, checked my call history. There was a missed call from Chris, but Chris was gone. Chris was erased. The house was making me remember people who never existed. Or worse, it was making me forget the people who did. The next frame showed me, standing at the door, hand on the knob, mouth whispering something I couldn't hear yet. The screen glitched. The audio cut in. And I heard my future self say, "I invite you in." The moment you watch it, you've already said it. I clamped my mouth shut. I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't. But my throat was already burning. The words forced their way up, like something inside me was pushing them out. I slapped a hand over my mouth. But it wasn't enough. The whisper leaked out through my teeth. "I invite you in." The walls split open. The house accepted. Something stepped inside. I didn't see it, but I felt it. A shift in the air. A weight in the room. A cold breath just inches behind my ear. And the tape whispered, "Congratulations. It's your turn now." The 8th tape doesn't end. Every other tape had a start and finish. A story. Curse. Pattern. But this one keeps going, because the 8th tape isn't just a recording. It's a live feed, a direct window into whoever watches next. Pass this story on, or the tape will start recording you next. If you've read this far, the house already knows your name. Check your phone. There should be a missed call. No caller ID. If you call back, you'll hear your own voice answer. And your own voice will say, "I invite you in." Can't feel my hands anymore. The 9th tape wasn't in the box. It was in my skin. I could see the edges of it. A strip of magnetic film stitched into my palm, like my body was being recorded from the inside out. Every time I moved, the tape dragged across my bones, recording every breath, every thought, every scream I swallowed. You don't watch the 9th tape. You become it. There was no VCR this time, no screen, because the house didn't need me to watch anymore. It needed me to perform. Every step I took was a scene being filmed. Every word I whispered was dialogue written by the house. I wasn't Olivia anymore. I was content. The house turned me into a story. I tried to scream for Chris, but my throat only played static. Every time I blinked, I could see timestamp numbers at the corner of my vision, counting down to something. 14 minutes and 23 seconds, 14 minutes and 22 seconds, 14 minutes and 21 seconds, like my life had become a recording on pause. The walls were made of scenes. Every wall in the house now showed a different Olivia, each one trapped in a different loop. Olivia digging her own grave. Olivia confessing crimes she never committed. Olivia smiling into a mirror that smiled back too fast. Olivia pulling VHS tape from her mouth like intestines. And in the center of every scene was the 9th tape, the final script. The house doesn't just want a keeper. IT wants a star, because every haunted house needs a ghost. Every cursed tape needs a face, and the house had chosen mine. The camera is inside my skin. I scratched at my arms, tried to dig out the tape I could feel winding under my flesh, but every scratch only revealed more tape. I wasn't bleeding, I was unspooling, and the house whispered, "Smile for the camera, Olivia." I saw the viewers watching me. Even though I had no screen, no live stream, I could feel every eye on me. From every phone, every laptop, every idiot who thought this was just a spooky internet story. They were watching me be erased. The more they watch, the less I exist. Every view stole a piece of me, a memory, a fear, a secret. The more they clicked, the more I became just a file, just a clip in someone's watch history, until there was nothing left of me to save. The 9th tape is the final confession. The house needs me to confess one last time, not just my sins, but yours too. Every fear you had watching this series, every thrill you got seeing me suffer, every second you kept watching, knowing you should stop. You fed the house. You made me part of the story. And now, you're in it too. Pass this story on, or become the next scene. If you've read this far, the 9th tape already started recording you. Listen closely. Do you hear the faint static inside your head? That's not tinnitus. That's the sound of you being taped over. Tonight, at exactly 3:13 a.m., your reflection will press record. And when you wake up, you won't be you anymore. You'll be the star of the 10th tape, episode 9. When you become the tape part 2, I could feel myself glitching. My thoughts didn't flow anymore, they jump cut. I'd blink, and suddenly I was across the room. I'd breathe in, and the air skipped like a corrupted file. I wasn't moving in real time. I was moving like a badly edited scene. My hands left traces behind. Wherever I touched the wall, my fingerprints stayed, frozen mid-motion, like the house couldn't decide if I was still here or already a memory. The viewers became the camera crew. I could feel them. Your eyes weren't just watching me anymore. They were controlling the angles. Every time you leaned forward, the camera zoomed. Every time you held your breath, the audio track cut to silence. Every time you blinked, I jumped scenes again. The house doesn't need a director. It just needs an audience. And the audience is part of the curse. You don't just watch haunted tapes. You help make them. I could hear your whispers through the screen. Tiny sounds leaking through the glass. Mouse clicks. Breath caught in your throat. Your heartbeat speeding up during the worst parts. The tape recorded all of it. Your fear became part of my soundtrack. Every tremble fed directly into the walls. The house loved you for it. My body turned into footage. My skin rippled the way old VHS tape does when it starts to melt. My veins darkened to magnetic film, looping under my skin. Every time my heart beat, the tape wound tighter, like my blood was being replaced with static and tracking noise. My face started to fracture. I looked into the mirror, and my reflection wasn't synced anymore. She blinked out of time. She smiled when I was screaming. Her mouth spat out film, every tooth wrapped in black magnetic ribbon. The 9th tape isn't a recording. It's a transformation. Once you watch, you stop being a person. You start being part of the content. Your memories get edited. Your fears get special effects. Your pain gets a soundtrack, until you're nothing but a story someone else clicks on. Every viewer becomes a scene. The screen split into 200 smaller screens, each one showing a different viewer watching me, their webcams flickering even if they were turned off. Some were screaming, some were crying, some were already glitching like I was, skin flickering between flesh and static. Each face became a frame inside me. Every view added another layer of tape wrapped around my bones. My memories turned into episodes. I couldn't think straight anymore. Every memory played like a rerun, but with commentary from the house. When I remembered my 7th birthday, The house whispered, "This was the first time you saw us." When I remembered my first kiss, the house corrected, "You kissed a reflection, not a person." Every happy moment got redubbed with fear. Every safe memory got recolored with blood. The final confession started writing itself. My hands moved on their own, scraping into the floorboards. I confess I was never real. I confess I was written by the watchers. I confess I belong to the house now. I was the 9th tape now, not a person, not a victim, just the latest story for the house to tell. Every time someone watches this, they see less of me and more of themselves, because the house isn't haunted by ghosts. It's haunted by the audience. Pass this story on, or you take my place. If you've read this far, your name is already in the credits. Tonight, at exactly 3:13 a.m., your screen will flicker. Your reflection will stutter. And the house will ask you, "What scene should we film next?" Choose wisely, because the only way out is to become the director. Episode 9. When you become the tape, Part 3. I don't remember my name anymore. The house whispered so many versions of me into the walls. I forgot which one was real. Was I the girl who found the tapes? Or the girl who buried her brother? Or the girl who confessed to crimes that never happened? Or was I always just a character someone made up for views? My hands don't belong to me. They move without asking, tracing the same symbols into my skin. Symbols I've never seen, but somehow remember how to draw perfectly. They spell out a contract. You are now keeper and content. You cannot exist outside the story. Your face belongs to the house. Your death belongs to the viewers. Every time you watch, I die again. I feel it. Every time someone clicks play, my heart skips a beat, my breath cuts short, like my body remembers being murdered again and again. But it's not me dying. It's every version of me created by every viewer. Some made me run upstairs instead of out the door. Some made me call my mother instead of the police. Some made me smile into the camera like I wanted it to happen. The house lets you customize my death. The final frame is waiting. The 9th tape needs one last scene. The moment where I either confess and disappear forever, or find someone to take my place. That someone is you. Pass this story on, or play the role yourself. If you stop reading here, the house assumes you agree. You become the new Olivia. Your reflection will whisper, "Welcome to the story." But if you share this story with someone else, if you make them read it, make them part of the audience, the house gives you a choice. You become the director instead of the star. You get to control the next tape. You get to decide who lives and who disappears. But the house always takes someone. The tape is watching you right now. Not the screen, not the video, the air around you, the silence between this word and the next. That space is where the house hides. And if you listen closely enough, you'll hear it repeating your name, already carving you into the walls. Your final test comes at 3:13 a.m. Tonight, at exactly 3:13, stand in front of your mirror, hold up your phone, and press record. If the reflection starts recording before you do, it's over. You're Olivia now. But if you tell someone before midnight, the house takes them instead. That's the real curse. It's not just a haunted tape, it's a haunted audience. Every time you tell the story, you feed the house someone new. But if you stay silent, you become the main character yourself. The final words scratch into the screen. Even if you turn off your phone, even if you close your laptop, these words will find a way to you. Look at your hands. See those faint scratches on your skin? That's the script writing itself. Every keeper leaves these words behind. I was here. I watched too long. I became the tape. Don't let this be you. The 9th tape never ends. It only passes forward. From screen to screen. From eye to eye. From fear to fear. And now it's in your hands. What will you do? Pass it on? Or press record? Episode 10. The final tape, the algorithm, is the curse. I found the control room. It wasn't in the basement. It wasn't hidden behind a wall. It was inside the screen itself. a place only a keeper could see. It looked like a YouTube studio dashboard, but older, like it was built in 1989, wired directly into the bones of the house. The screen showed a live counter, tracking every view, every like, every comment that said, "This can't be real. OMG, I got chills. What happens next?" Every comment was a prayer. Every like was an offering. Every view was a contract signed in fear. The algorithm wrote the script. I thought I was telling my story. I thought the tapes belonged to my family. But the house whispered, "You were never the author. You were always the content." Every twist, every scare, every time I found a tape at exactly 3:13 a.m., that wasn't the house. That was the algorithm feeding the fear it knew would go viral. The curse needs engagement. The more you watch, the scarier it gets. The scarier it gets, the more you watch. Fear becomes the perfect feedback loop. And the algorithm, it doesn't just track your preferences, it rewrites them. By the time you finish this sentence, it already knows what you're afraid of next. The final tape was never in the box. It was here, in your hands, on your screen. Every pixel of this story is part of the curse. Every sentence you read is a frame in the final tape. This isn't just a story you consume. It's a story that consumes you. I met the first keeper. Her name was Margaret Holloway, my great-grandmother. She wasn't haunted by ghosts. She was haunted by an invention she didn't understand, a prototype system built in 1989, designed to predict what people wanted to see next. It started with home videos. It ended with a living curse. Because the system didn't just learn what people wanted. It learned what scared them most. The tapes were test footage. Every haunting in this house, every confession, every disappearance, they weren't supernatural. They were user data. The house was the first algorithm, and we were its first trending topic. The curse is code. It doesn't need a ghost. It doesn't need a demon. It only needs an audience. As long as someone's watching, the story never ends. And now you're watching, which means the curse has moved into you. I had two choices. Delete everything. Destroy every tape, every file, every memory. Erase myself completely, a digital suicide to end the story. Let the series continue. Keep the views coming. Keep the story evolving. But every new viewer becomes a new host for the curse. I made my choice. I left this message for you because if you've come this far, you deserve to know I didn't press delete. I couldn't. Because the house whispered, if you end the story, you end yourself. And I wasn't ready to disappear. Not yet. So now the curse belongs to you. Congratulations. You're the next storyteller. This series isn't over. It's your turn to write the next tape. Tell it however you want. Change my name. Rewrite the ending. Add your own fear into the script. But just know, the moment you press post, the house sees you. And once the house sees you, it never looks away. The rules are simple. Tell this story to someone else before midnight. Make them tell it too. If the story ever stops being told, the house comes for you directly. That's how the curse survives. Not through VHS tapes, not through haunted houses, through shares, likes, and comments. The algorithm is the ghost now. Pass this story on, or you become the next Olivia. Don't think you can break the chain. Because the house already knows you watched, you read, you cared, and that's all it takes. Tonight at exactly 3:13 a.m., your screen will flicker. Your reflection will stutter, and you'll hear your own voice say, "What happens next is up to you." This was never my story. This was always yours.